problems. Because I mean, it's, you know, we didn't just say, okay, let's automate and that's going to solve all our problems. We set specific goals or specific things that we wanted to achieve. And the number one goal that we wanted to achieve with automation is that it should save us time, right? Because we spend a lot of time on manual regression testing week over week over week. And we thought, okay, that's stupid. Let's try to get that done by a machine, especially the repetitive piece. Then we wanted to have instant feedback, which especially, you know, in today's much more agile world, the piece of instant feedback, ideally, you know, when you check in your code, you have you know, some unit tests or even possibly end-to-end automation tests tell you what you did, you know, if you messed something up or if you didn't. So provide instant feedback. One thing that was not the goal is to find bugs, which is a very controversial thing. So that's why I'm going to try to explain that. When I say automation does not need to find bugs, I mean I'm not measuring my my automation success or the success of my automation efforts by how many bugs it finds. Of course, I do expect that it will find at least the bugs that I would find through manual testing. But I'm not having, I don't have this goal that it has to find 5 times as many bugs. Yeah, so that's just as an explanation. Focuses on end-to-end tests, already mentioned that. Automation should help to make our lives easier. Yeah, I think that comes with everything. And we are not an automation team, and this is also maybe a little bit different from most other companies, is that in many companies or bigger organizations, you know, you have your manual test group and then you have your automation test group. And those guys, they throw, so the manual testers, they do their manual tests and then they tell the automation guys, hey, you know, why don't you automate a subset of the manual tests maybe. We don't have that set up. So we basically, within the European QE team, we do everything together in one team. So we do the manual piece and we do the automation as well. So we have people who only focus on manual testing, and we have people who only focus on automated testing. But then we also have people in between who basically are in these hybrid roles where do manual testing but also automate, write automation code. Yeah. Good. So if we look at the next slide, previous slide explained why we did it, what we wanted to achieve. Now let's look a little bit about what we did and how we did it. So first of all, we said, why are we doing this in the first place? What are we doing this? So the what was regression testing, right? It wasn't new feature testing, it wasn't unit testing, it was end-to-end regression testing. And the who part, that was also something that that needs to be carefully chosen, because also depending on your tool set that you're going to choose, right? If you have a programmatic approach, for example, and you're writing your tests in Java, then having somebody who has never coded before is probably not the right audience for that. So these things, you know, we basically made clear from the very beginning that the who, so we're targeting people who have programming knowledge. Usage of open source tools, that's also something. I'm a huge fan of open source, and I understand there's all kinds of test automation tools out there that you know, that you can buy for a lot of money. I have to say, nothing has delivered the results to us as the combination of Selenium, or how it is today, WebDriver. We use TestNG, Maven, Hudson, and Java. For us, that's the perfect package. And you know, I mean, we take from the open source community. We also have the possibility to give back. Of course, we're also active contributors into WebDriver. Actually, Francois Renaud, who is on my team, he just open sourced the WebDriver Grid. So when you download WebDriver today, it comes with the grid capability as you know it from Selenium 1. So, and also one other thing is that you're independent from any tool vendors, right? I remember also in other companies where I worked, you wanted a slight change, and then the vendor said, yeah, okay, we'll put it in, maybe we'll put it into our next release, and you'll get it in 6 months. I think we all know, with open source, that's very, very different. So we chose a programmatic approach. I think everybody who has looked into end-to-end automation has tried record and playback. We have tried that too. And it worked for a while. And that while was about for the first 50 test cases. And then maintenance became a nightmare. So today we have about 3,500 end-to-end test cases that we have automated, and so we chose a programmatic approach. So we basically use Selenium or WebDriver, and we program our tests in Java, which of course gives you the whole tool set and the whole possibility of the Java world. We have an open source development approach within the team as well. So there, if you need a helper function, for example, you can't, or I mean, you can go to somebody, you can nicely ask somebody and take him out for a beer, and maybe he'll write that helper function for you. But generally, if you need something, you're the one who's responsible for it, and you're absolutely encouraged and expected to program that piece of that helper function or whatever you need, right? So there is no centralized team that will provide you with those features, because what you know probably is, if I asked you today what you would like to have in a automation solution, well, that's probably going to be a very long list of things. But if I ask you to do it yourself, imagine how short that list all of a sudden becomes. But the good thing is that it's probably exactly the stuff that you want and the stuff that you need. And again, we concentrated on the biggest bang for the buck, as you say in English, and which for us was the regression testing piece. All right. So now we did all this wonderful stuff, and now people ask me, okay, well, show me what did it do for you? Like what has actually changed? And so this is data from 2009 and 2010. And there's a lot of stuff on these charts, and I'm going to explain that in a second. So what you're looking at here is we call it bug contribution, which means how many bugs did my team find compared to everybody else in eBay. So basically the share of the bugs that were found within the European quality engineering team compared to all the other folks in eBay. Yeah. And the red line that you see, that's our headcount share, which means that we make up for about 2% of the global test engineering headcount. So, in relative numbers, a very small team. And so, you would expect, okay, I mean, if we make up for 2% of the global headcount, you would probably expect that we also find roughly about 2% of the bugs globally. And actually, that was the case in early 2009 when we just came out of this reorg, and things needed still to be sorted out, and we started looking at automation. And that's exactly where we were at. And then as we started investing into automation, we saw something interesting happening, which was that our share of bugs actually went up. And so what happened? What happened was that because we weren't bogged up with our manual regression piece, that we had to execute every 2 weeks, because that was already taken care of by the automation piece. So we actually had a lot more time to spend on manual testing again, but on manual testing of new features, on manual testing in an exploratory way, for example, because that's exactly where most of the bugs are hidden, right? I mean, you're probably not going to find too many bugs in regression testing, but you're going to find probably a lot more bugs in new feature development. So as we continued to put more and more automation cases into place, also our bug share just kept going up and up. And I remember, I think we were somewhere at about 6%, and I was over in the U.S. To talk to a few other managers, and I said, hey, you know, I think this is it. I mean, 2% of the people find about 6% of the bugs. I think we've probably hit the ceiling. Well, not really, because when I came back, we were already over it. And as you can see, so it basically just kept going up, and we at some point hit even 18%, so which was a spike. But I think the trend is clear. And then when you look at the bottom chart, which shows 2010, we basically constantly hovered between, let's say, 6 and 10%, still with 2% of the people. Of course, the upward trend is maybe not quite as significant because, of course, we already had a lot of automation in place. So by putting even more automation into place, we couldn't, we couldn't really generate that much more bandwidth. So that's why there's maybe not that that 45-degree angle trend line. But I think you all can see that automation absolutely has done a lot for us in terms of how many bugs we could find. And again, this is not about what kind of bugs. This is just a quantitative measurement of pure bug numbers. Good. Okay. So I hope everybody was able to digest this chart. So when we move on to the next one,